Robert Burns Crookston, known as Burns, was first cousin to Jesse Crookston and close to the same age. Burns was the sixth child of 9 children to Nicholas Crookston and Alice Rice. Burns was born prematurely during pioneer times and weighed only 2 pounds. He was too tiny to dress, so his mother provided cotton batting around him and placed him in a basket surrounded by hot bricks to keep him warm. He was so small that his mother's wedding ring could slide to his shoulder. She fed him with an eyedropper. His parents hurriedly named him, fearing that he might not survive. Nicholas liked the Scottish poet Robert Burns. Since his father's name was Robert and had not been used, it was fitting to name the child Robert Burns Crookston. It took 2 years for him to walk, and he continued to grow to be healthy and was large for his age. The Logan Grizzly of 1929 reported that he was an all-state forward in basketball in 1908 at age 16, having entered Utah College. During the 4 years he was at the Utah Agriculture College, he earned 14 athletic letters in each of the 3 sports: baseball, basketball, and track. He earned 4 in football, 1 in wrestling. A broken collarbone received in a basketball game prevented him from earning a 4th letter in baseball, basketball, and track. He received 14 athletic sweaters. During his summers between attending college, he earned his way as a farmhand and a cowboy at the Stewart Ranch near Woodland and Camas, Utah. Little did he know that experience would change his life forever. It was there that he met his wife-to-be, Glenna Marie Valentine, who had been enlisted to work at her uncle's ranch to cook for the ranch hands. Their courtship continued during college. Burns was team captain in every sport he played. In 1912, he was a key factor in a game with the University of Utah, who was expected to soundly defeat the Aggies. However, his passing prowess prevented a win by the Utes, who had to settle for a tie. And in that same year, he tossed an 87-yard pass for a win against the University of Colorado. The pass was 87 yards in the air, for he had backed up from the yard of scrimmage and passed the ball, which was caught in the end zone. The pass went into record books as the longest completed pass in college football. He said that he could always throw the ball further than he could kick it. His brother Newell said that Burns could pitch the ball from end zone to end zone. Glenna was the daughter of Richard Elando Valentine and Mary Ann Stewart. She was born December 25, 1894 in Ogden, Utah. She was a middle child of 9 girls and 4 boys. Early work of the family included the strenuous contract work to build canals and railroad beds. Burns and Glenna were married on September 29, 1915. Following college, Burns went to Idaho in 1915. He opened up a 1,100-acre farm at Canyon Creek, about 20 miles northeast of Rexburg, where he and his father-in-law, Richard Valentine, would farm together for the next 3 years. Glenna and Burns' first home was in Rexburg, where they both taught school at Ricks College. They built a tiny 2-room house with the help of Burns' father, Nick. Burns also served as athletic coach at Ricks College during the years of 1916 to 1919. Burns would spend weekends working on his farm, and during the summer, Glenna was a great help in cooking for them, including the hired hands. They returned to Logan in 1920, where he became the athletic coach at Brigham Young College. He was very successful until the college was closed in 1926. He then coached for South Cache High for 1 year. He returned to coach at Logan High in 1927 on the campus that formerly had been the Brigham Young College. He continued coaching at Logan until 1946, where he became the first driver's education teacher in Utah public schools at Logan High School. His athletic success as a coach was proved noteworthy as he garnered outstanding records. In the meantime, Burns Valentine Crookston was born in Logan in 1922. Mary Ann Nancy Crookston was born in 1924. The family moved to the Rose home and the farm in North Logan in April 1926. The 5 acres of orchard and grass proved to be a godsend during the Depression years. Burns had again found his love for farming. In 1932, Joyce Hanson Crookston was born, and she came to live with the family. And then later in 1935, she was joined by Paul Valentine Crookston, who was the last to be born. There were now 3 boys and 3 girls. Burns became the first mayor of North Logan and in 1934 petitioned the state of Utah for North Logan to become incorporated as a town so they could receive WPA funds from the federal government to build a water system. Not to be outdone, Glenna headed up the beautification committee for the town. Most notably was the school landscaping in the early 1940s to plant lawns, trees, and shrubs at the school. Many of those trees are still in the grounds of the school. She also revitalized the PTA programs in Cache Valley and in northern Utah. Horses were always a part of the farm operation. Glenn and Burns would often ride as well as did the children. There were always a few cows. As Paul grew during the 40s and 50s, so did the dairy herd. They were milking about 8 cows by hand until 1952, when the neighbor next door went into the Air Force for 3 years during the Korean War. He asked Burns on less than a day's notice to take over his herd of 8 cows plus his 40 acres of pasture, hay, and grain. Burns was told that he could have half the calves and all the proceeds. Not a bad deal, except it now became necessary to immediately purchasing milking machines and to get both herds friendly, which was not an easy job. At the time, they were managing a state wildlife farm of 116 acres where deer were fed in the wintertime. They earned half all they raised. The total operation had grown to 170 acres, including about 60 irrigated acres. The love of their life came with the cabin at Beaver Springs at the edge of Franklin Basin and Logan Canyon. Burns received a share of 160 acres left by his father, his share being 17 acres. Most of the area was underwater because of heavy dams. Burns was very insightful in his selection because there are numerous springs in the property. One was high enough on the mountain to give water pressure when piped. In later years, after Burns had passed away, Lyle Israelson installed a hydroelectric generator at the cabin that proved successful. Burns purchased an abandoned railroad station house located next to the Logan High School. It was the right size to haul on the road 26 miles to the cabin site. This was accomplished in the summer of 1953. It has provided great fun for the family and communities groups ever since then. A mission call came to Burns and Glenna to become the directors of the new LDS Church visitor site at the Joseph Smith birthplace in South Royalton, Vermont. They left in the spring of 1960 for their mission that was a highlight of their life. They were told to make friends in the community and get involved in civic organizations. Of course, Glenna was in her element as well as Burns. Burns was also responsible to do the landscaping of the new center. They became loved by the local people and members. Tragically, just before the end of their mission, Glenna suffered a major heart attack, but was fortunate enough to have a heart specialist close by to care for her. For the next 3 years, Burns and Glenna relished being with family and friends. Glenna's recovery was slow, but she managed, and in September of 1965, Burns took his last trip to Beaver Springs. His intent was to haul some gravel in a small trailer from near the Beaver Mountain ski area. He succeeded in loading part of the gravel, but suffered a heart attack. He was able to get the dog into the car, but was unable to do so himself and passed away. He always said that when he died, he wanted to go with his boots on, and he did. Ironically, invitation for Burns and Glenna's 50th wedding anniversary a couple of weeks later had already been printed. Burns proudly carried a copy in his shirt pocket until he left this life. These were passed out at the funeral. Their years together had truly been golden. Along with the great life that Glenn and Burns had, Burns will be remembered as a great athlete, coach, and teacher. He was a member of the Logan High School faculty for 30 years. In his first 10 years, he won 99 games with only 5 losses for the Logan High Grizzly basketball team. At the end of his 7-year mark of his coaching at Logan High, he had accomplished the following: Starting the year 1927, he was divisional championship in basketball, track, and football, I believe, every year. In track, he was divisional champ every year, basketball, divisional champ every year, football, divisional champ 6 years, football 1931 and 1932 reached state finals, and in basketball, he only lost 4 games in 6 years. He coached all sports: basketball, football, swimming, track and field, baseball, and any other sport that was there. The Crookston Memorial was created to honor the top male and female of the year. This award recognizes Logan High School students who have achieved excellence in athletics and academics. First award was in 1940 and continued for 18 years until Coach Crookston retired. It was again reinstalled in 1987.